How do you interpret what he's doing today and the reasons for which he is back in Texas and then on to Louisiana?
I'm going to agree with Kerry. We do need a commander-in-chief. So a commander-in-chief, as of today, in dealing with Houston, would do several things. One, he would suspend his efforts on a tax cut and drive through the Congress a responsible and fully funded bill to rebuild Houston, Beaumont, and the others.
Yeah, and by the way, Peter, hang on 2 seconds. Just want to let everybody know, hey, well, there's some hugs right there, guys. He is at the NRG Stadium there in Houston. Just walked into the property there, and he's being far more tactile than he was in his first visit, and just getting right there up with folks who have been displaced by Harvey. Again, this is a recovery center, and you know, so there he is, perhaps now showing a little bit more to his critics that he's got an empathetic side, and putting that out there. But Peter, go ahead now.
Well, I just will mention that when I met Donald Trump years ago, he wouldn't even shake people's hands. So obviously there's been a wonderful evolution that he can now hug people. The second aspect of what he needs to do right away is to reinstate the regulation that the Obama administration put in so that sea level rise is part of consideration for building, particularly in federal buildings, because that's going to be a real issue going down, not just for Houston, but for coastal areas around the United States. And the third thing he needs to do right now is literally take out his checkbook and deliver the $1 million that he pledged and not play games as he did with both donating his salary. And the White House is saying, well, I'm not sure when he can give the million, who can give the million, whatever. So I agree, it's his actions that I'm going to judge, not necessarily his words. But at the same time, it's very difficult to separate words of encouragement to Houston today and the vile, bitter words that he's tweeted constantly through the campaign and in these first few months in the White House.
But I've got to think, Kerry, that you are liking what you are seeing here. You see the president being, as we said, far more tactile than he's previously been. He is being trailed, everybody, by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. I saw him giving a young girl a hug there as he is sitting in his wheelchair, and that little girl was a little bit closer to eye level there, and he was very warm in his embrace, and he's got another child on his lap right now. But, Kerry, tell me what you're seeing here and how you think this may go to quell the critics from his first visit.
Sure, Alex. I definitely like what I'm seeing here in terms of what the president and first lady are doing there together to greet the victims directly of this horrible event. I think on his first visit, again, you know, the first visit was just making sure that you stop the bleeding. I'm more interested at that first visit to make sure that people are having the first responders arrive at their front door, not giving them a hug just to make them feel good. You got to give results. And so I think he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. And again, this president has shown that he has tremendous empathy for people who have been left behind in our economy. I do agree that, yes, I want to make sure that if he's pledging to give $1 million, let's see the proof in that pudding. Let's hold him accountable, absolutely. But in terms of tax cuts, as was mentioned earlier, I disagree, because as someone who is a small business owner and who has worked on Wall Street, we need tax cuts, and we also need just the rejuvenation of business, because that's how Houston and any community that's been hit by disaster will recover. And in fact, the package that President Trump has requested includes, I believe, $500 million for the Small Business Administration to help Houston businesses recover.
Yeah, just a little under that, but you're right. That definitely is part of this package. Right. I got to tell you, we're seeing a remarkably different president than we have seen in the past. I mean, we have seen him with his grandchildren, and he walks hand in hand with them, deplaning Air Force One, or seeing them perhaps on the balcony at the White House. You know, and we know that he is a doting grandfather in that regard, but this is different. Don't you think, Peter?
I do, and I think it's terrific, and I happen to agree with you, Alex, that it's not just commander-in-chief. Also, presidents have always been looked to, whether it's Franklin Roosevelt or Ronald Reagan or George Bush I, to give comfort and solace to the country and to unite, by the way. Very, very important to unite. You know, so if I were in charge of things, I would have had Mattress Mac, that extraordinary gentleman in Houston who opened up all his furniture stores to the victims of this hurricane and the flood. I would have had him on the tarmac. That gentleman, Mattress Mac, could teach us all, including the president, how to be both a man of action as well as a man of empathy and compassion.
Yeah. Hey, Carrie and Peter, you guys hang on. I want to be welcome to our conversation right now. Republican Congressman French Hill of Arkansas. Congressman, I hope you're able to see what's going on there inside of the NRG Stadium in Houston. Right now, sir, if you can see it, we see Texas Governor Greg Abbott putting a young child inside that shelter, a very large shelter, on his lap there in the wheelchair, and perhaps giving kids a little bit of a ride. But even more notably, we are seeing the president posing for pictures, really reaching down on the level of the young kids, picking up some kids. This is a much different president than the one we saw earlier this week in Houston, or the one that by reputation we usually see. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad to see President Trump return back to Texas to show his empathy for the catastrophe that's hit the Gulf Coast, and I'm delighted to see him.
Sir, hold your thought just a moment. We're able to hear Mr. Trump right now. Let's take a listen to what he's saying.